Hey again, everybody. Welcome back to the series I'm Turning 30. My name is Mitch, and this is a series where every single week I post about something relevant to my past life, my future life, or just things that I think might be interesting for people to know about me and my psyche and kind of how I hold myself. As you can see from the title of this week's video, today I'm going to be talking about something a little bit more lighthearted, so if you're in for more serious topics, maybe skip this video and come back next week, or check out my other videos if you haven't checked them out already. Also, thank you for all the love on the last video. Wasn't expecting, especially this early, to get over 100 views on a video. So it's pretty cool that it kind of got up there. Obviously it didn't go viral or anything, but it's great that some people decided that it was something worth clicking on and watching. So I really do appreciate you coming by to check out the channel and the video, regardless of how long you stayed and watched the video. But without further ado, let's get into the things that make me irrationally angry. Now, if you're one of my friends, you might have an idea of what I'm going to talk about, or at least a few of the things that I could talk about. I'm not sure how many things I'm going to hit, because I feel like the things that make me irrationally angry, sometimes you don't immediately remember every single one. I mean, there are a couple that stick out that I'll be mentioning, and maybe I'll remember some as I'm going through this video. We're going to start off with the biggest two that a lot of people know me for, and that is flying and the Tower of Babel. So we'll jump into the first topic, flying. Now, if you know me, I can probably talk about superpowers for a long time. Not to say that I'm like a Marvel fanatic or anything like that, and I know everything, about all the superpowers, but I feel like I take a very practical and nuanced approach to the superpowers, and I think of the benefits as well as the negative that could come with said superpower, as well as certain superpowers that are technically more than one superpower in one. Now again, I could just talk about superpowers in general for a long time. I feel like it's a very interesting topic, that somebody's answer on the topic says a lot about them, which is why if you say flying to the answer, what superpower would you choose? Literal disbelief. I cannot understand why you would choose flying over everything else. It genuinely blows my mind that people answer the question like, yeah, I'd like to fly. I'm like, okay, like, what? Like, it's literally the worst answer I think that you can give. I mean, I think you could choose a super specific superpower that is only allowed or able to help you in a certain situation, and it would help you by far more than flying would. In this world, I want, in your mind, if you are saying, Mitch, I think flying's kind of cool, I've seen it in like this movie or that movie, stop. Again, when talking about superpowers, you have to talk about the reality that those movies are in and the reality that we are in. While those realities in movies look like that they are based around our Earth, one, obviously some have aliens and other things that don't exist, but not getting into that, like even that, you have to think about the science and other things that would happen when these people perform said superpowers. And again, I feel like I'm going to get deep into the weeds in the superpower thing, but I'm going to try to just focus on flying for this video. Obviously, there are other powers and things that you can say would happen with other powers as well, but I'm just going to focus on flying for this video. Again, I think it's a very interesting topic, just that flying is the worst answer to said question. All right, so let's talk about a few of the reasons why I think flying by itself would be terrible. Now, if you take flying, sure, you can fly up in the air, you can see the world from a different perspective, I guess. Let's talk about how fast are you going? Can you all of a sudden fly like a peregrine falcon? How fast can you fly? You have much more wind resistance that's going to be hitting you, let alone all the things that could be in the air that you could hit at a certain altitude. Let's talk about the temperature that you're flying out. How cold? You're going to have to wear certain things. It's going to change when you hit different parts of the atmosphere. There are... Like, this topic, flying genuinely just makes me just insane, because there's so much that goes into it rather than just, I want to fly and feel like free. Because there's so much more to it than that people that give this answer literally, I know that it's just like it's not that deep, bro, but like, you're really not taking into account how much better a different power could be. Just take shapeshifting. Let's take shapeshifting. Become a bird. Become a falcon. You could still have those things and not have to worry about things that would come with it from being a human. It's, again, shapeshifting's just an overall better pick if you would like to fly. If you want to just be able to get somewhere faster. Teleportation. You cannot tell me that you are going to fly to a different country. Again, if you can fly at super speeds, how is your body reacting to the G-forces, the oxygen in the air? Are your lungs now somehow better? Is the flying taking a physical toll on you? Flying should be a physical thing. It requires muscles to do. What muscles are they? Are they going to be sore? How long can you fly? There's a plethora of questions that come along with flying, especially for distances and the speed, that makes flying just a terrible idea. There is so many better things to take if you would like to experience flying. So please, 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 I beg of you, when people ask you this question, do not say flying. Just say shapeshifting, please. Overall, I think for the majority of people that want to fly, shapeshifting is the power that you would want to go with. It will get rid of a lot of the negatives, and I will not have to rage at you. Because it genuinely just makes me so upset that people cannot see how many things would go wrong in our world, in our reality, with flying as a human. There's so much more that goes into it. And you can say that for any superpower, but I'm saying flying, just by itself, is the worst. I might talk about superpowers just in general in a different video, and I might kind of come back to the flying aspect, because like, for example, I think teleportation would be a really cool thing, but if we're talking about our reality, how does the teleportation affect your body? Does time pass? There's a whole plethora of things that you could say and question with other things, but flying, they are very basic questions that can be covered by another power. And then different questions appear when you choose those powers, but they're not basic questions. I'm just saying flying's basic, don't choose it. Please, dear God. Man, I'm gonna need a drink or do something for this video because I'm already upset. And I've only talked about flying so far. I don't know how much of the footage I filmed on flying is gonna make it in, because I want it to be a reasonable amount, not me repeating myself. But dear God, this video is... I hope you're entertained, because I'm upset. Even though I'm smiling, this is so frustrating, even just talking to a camera in my room by myself. Dear God. But yeah, leave me a comment down below if you think I'm wrong about flying and why it would be so great. I definitely won't agree with you, but I'm so interested in what you will say. So interested, because I guarantee I've heard it, and I guarantee I have a counterpoint for it. But yeah, go ahead and leave me a comment down below if you think flying's great, or just in general, what superpower you think would be great, and maybe questions that surround that superpower, like for teleportation. For me, for example, there's plenty of questions that surround it. Go ahead and leave those in the comments below, and I'll look at them and reply to some if you have an interesting take. I did just realize that these two things that I'm going to talk about, at least that I have planned out so far, maybe I add another point if I remember while I'm filming this, but that these both have to do with heights technically, or like going up high. So I wonder if there's some type of correlation there. Maybe I just get upset when people want to go high into the air. Huh. I don't know. Let me know down below if you think they're related. And with that relation, let's talk about the second one now, the Tower of Babel. Oh, now... with the Tower of Babel, I will preface this by saying I will not be talking in entirety about religion here. This is not a religion thing. This is just a frustrating story I think I would have regardless of how I grew up and how I have affiliated myself with religion throughout my life. Just get that out of the way right away. And please, if you think I'm getting something wrong with this story, please correct me down below. Again, I would love to hear the feedback on how you perceive the Tower of Babel. Although for now, this is my account of the events. The Tower of Babel started in the book of Genesis, which, you know, was thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago that this happened. The Tower of Babel was originally created and was being made for the purpose of one day reaching the stars where God supposedly lived. Now, within the Tower of Babel, there are a couple of points that kind of rile me up and make me want to start just fighting people that talk about it because it's so annoying. And I guess not fighting people because people aren't necessarily passionate about this like they are with flying, but it just doesn't make sense to me. And I feel like no one can explain this to me, and everybody wants to give me a either different answer that does believe in it. So again, please, please let me know if you think I'm mistaken about this story down below, or send me a message wherever. As you can see, I'm already heated. I'm like trying to get these points out of the way and put these gates up so that you have context for I'm open to being wrong here. I really am. It's just I don't the way that my brain has understood these stories and flying just drives me crazy. With the Tower of Babel, I'm gonna get through this. With the Tower of Babel, it was created to reach where God was. It was supposedly this very large tower that started just going up very, very high, and it was a collective effort of people who looked and had very different values. They all came together and had a uniform language around essentially the world. Everybody spoke the same language and made this tower to reach God. I'm losing it. In this story, eventually, I believe it says that God catches wind of this or notices that this is happening, that this is their purpose, which he's all-knowing, so he should have known this was going to happen or be built. Again, I can get deep into the weeds with this one. There's so much wrong with this story. He should have known this was going to happen because, everybody's his children, omnipotent, all that stuff. That they were going to do this, and that they were going to do this through the power of being able to communicate with one another because of the scale of the Tower of Babel and the project that it was to create said tower. Even though he knew, or should have known, that this was going to happen, that they were going to do this, he decided, no, you can't build this giant tower to reach me, and I am going to destroy the tower, change the languages that you guys speak, and scatter you throughout the earth. Okay, I guess, God. And that's kind of the basic premise of the story. Everybody gets scattered. There's now a bunch of languages. People have different ways of communicating with each other, and a lot of people will say that that's the reason why there's so many different kinds of languages and yada 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 that are religious. Again, this is all coming from that perspective. I know that there are other theories and things like that, but that is the Bible theory that people speak different languages because of this event. I'm getting too deep into the weeds here, but that's the basic premise of the story. Let's think about this from the knowledge that we have now as a civilization. I'm gonna be honest. We've been in space. God doesn't seem to care at all. Don't know why he cared about this tower. Could have just let him do it, reach whatever layer of the atmosphere they could have gotten to when they couldn't breathe or it was too cold for them to live, and been like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. That was real fucking stupid. Like, there was no reason for God to have this tantrum and destroy the tower and confuse the language of the people. There's literally no reason for it. They were never going to reach him, and they were working together. Regardless of if bad things were happening inside the tower, I'm pretty sure it's a part of the story that like sins and things were happening inside the tower. Who cares? Sins happen now. We are literally in space. It doesn't make any sense why at this point in time, when everybody spoke the same language, and we have so many problems in our world today because of communication issues, it doesn't make any sense for God, who knows they are never going to reach him via a tower from the ground to the sky. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. You cannot convince me otherwise. But if you'd like to try, I'll be looking out in those comments down below. Let's get into another aspect of the Tower of Babel. Whenever I bring up this story, there are always the people that do believe in the Bible and these stories that will immediately say, oh, but it wasn't a real story. It was just meant to teach us something. Bitch, what? Like, what are you saying? It was meant to teach us something? Please enlighten me on how humans working together to make something, to reach a greater height, to see their creator, again, regardless of what's happening inside, because during the entirety of human history, including the religious one, if that's how you believe, if we go all the way back to even the start with Adam and Eve, murder happens very quickly. Like, The world was terrible from the get-go. Regardless of what's happening inside this tower, it was never going to succeed. There's no underlying story here if the Tower of Babel was not a real place. It shows God was an angry, evil, and rude person. It really does. I can't wrap my head around what the moral of this story would be for churchgoers and why it's important for us to know this story. I'm actually going to read you some of the verses from Genesis while this tower was being built. Like what was happening. I'm going to read directly from the source, so there's no twisting of words here. Okay, so this is from Genesis 11 verses 3 and 4. Come, let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly. Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower whose top is in the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered abroad over the face of the whole earth. So the Babylonians did not want to be scattered and wanted to stick together. And they had a language that was understood by all, understood by everybody. A message and a language that could be understood by everyone on earth. So it seems as if the intention of the Babylonians here was not to defy God. They just wanted to have this beacon essentially for their society to look up to help them get to different parts of the land. And if it's this tall building, you know, if they're in a far away off land, we were talking thousands and thousands of years ago before the invention of a lot of things, it would be a beacon for them to find their way home if they were lost or if something happened to them, a marker. But apparently to God, this intention didn't matter. It wasn't the intent of them building this and these good intentions that they may have had, and even if these bad things were happening inside the tower. A lot of people will say the wanting to reach for heaven is a sin, which say that in your mind. Literally say that phrase in your mind. Their desire to reach heaven was a sin because it was arrogant. Even though it could never happen, God decided that them wanting to see their creator, the most perfect of all beings, and see their maker for no other reason than just to meet him, even when he knew that they couldn't be, especially based on what we know today, he decided that that was wrong. That was wrong. That is insane to me. That is absolutely insane. They didn't have God's permission to build such a large structure. What are you talking about? I don't know how large the Tower of Babel got. I don't think that there are any historical, especially very accurate representations to how tall this tower got specifically. But we have very tall buildings today. Again, I cannot say this enough. We literally have things in space. I cannot reinforce this enough. It was never going to happen. Why did he need to punish them if it was never going to work? And then we go a little bit further into that same chapter in Genesis. And we see that God actually came down, so wherever he was, in whatever form, to see the tower. He came down and saw it. And he said, again further in Genesis, in verses 5 to 7, indeed, the people are one, and they all have one language. And this is what they begin to do. Now nothing that they propose to do will be withheld from them. These guys could do anything. There's so much that they could accomplish because of the communication that they have. This is the next verse. Come, let us go down, and there confuse their language, that they may not understand another speech. What? You're telling me he came down, visited, was like, these guys could do anything? No. That was the reaction. Okay, yeah, sure, I guess. And again, going further into that same chapter of Genesis, he goes on to talk about how not only would we confuse their language, destroy the tower, we would now scatter these people that had been living together, that were a society, and separate them and scatter them throughout the earth. Because, you know, fuck them. To me, that doesn't even seem like a choice. It literally says he scattered them abroad from there all over the face of the earth. They didn't even have a choice to stay where they were. God decided that they needed to be separated after this incident. They needed to be pushed apart. They were not allowed to choose to stay or scatter. there's a chance they could have learned each other's languages, however many there were. There was so few reasons for them to scatter as well. And again, if it was forced, obviously they couldn't make a choice. Then that makes sense that they had to like leave. Even let's say they did have a choice. Like, let's pretend that God didn't force them to leave and they stayed together and they decided to leave because they couldn't speak each other's languages. That doesn't make sense. Why would you leave a society and a place that is so already well built with architecture and has these foundations of society just to scatter because you don't speak the same language? You would find people that speak close or similarly to you or your own family and stay in the same area because you want to talk to those who are important to you. Now, these people don't have a purpose. Again, if the forcing out, that's really rude. If they decided they wanted to leave because they couldn't communicate with each other, that seems crazy to me, because this was an established area and region that was decided that was a good place to live, and now we are just going to go and start again from nothing. Seems wild to me, rather than just staying and kind of at least segregating yourself into the places where you can talk to people and establishing a way to speak to one another. Did their memories go too? If all of a sudden I couldn't just speak to my best friend, I wouldn't be like, I'm not just piecing out. Like, there is a way that people learn and can adapt and figure out what the other person is saying and teach them. There are teachers throughout history. Language is something that can be taught. There is no reason for them to scatter and separate. Again, I'm getting really deep into this one, and this one really does drive me nuts. It has drove me nuts since I was a small child and I first heard about this story. I've just had all these doubts, and I keep coming up with new things, and then people say things to me and it just doesn't make sense, and it just drives me crazy talking about this with people. I just find different ways, no matter what they say to me, to be like, no, it's this, it doesn't make sense. There's so much wrong with this story, regardless of if it actually happened or didn't happen. If the story didn't actually happen, and that's where people are attacking it from, and it's supposed to just be this, it didn't happen, it's just supposed to teach you that you can't be on par with God. Well, one, I thought we were supposed to be like him and whatever, but like, I guess not, whatever. It seems like if you're going at it from that angle that this doesn't exist, that you're kind of looking at it through man's ambition can't be toe-to-toe with God, which seems weird to me, because why not if we're supposed to be like he is? And again, I can't say this enough. If it was literal, they would have never got there and never would have been able to be toe-to-toe with him, regardless of their hubris and arrogance. Let them do it, and then let them realize they were wrong instead of punishing them. This is not akin to the same level that you would see Lucifer essentially trying to ascend to God's throne and become the Almighty. It's not the same. So yeah, I don't know if I covered everything that I wanted to say with the Tower of Babel, but man, oh man, do I really fucking hate this story. I really hate it. I feel like it serves no purpose. It should not be there at all. It literally helps with nothing. It's actually wild that it's something that's taught to religious people and brought up. I literally just don't get it. I really don't. Again, please correct me in the comments. I would love to hear what you have to say so that I can see that my computer and type angry comments back to you. That's going to be it for today's video, guys. I feel like with these two topics, I feel like I could just keep kind of going on and on and on. And I think that the video might already be a little bit long, especially with the Tower of Babel part and editing that. We'll see. If you want to hear more on my thoughts on these topics, or maybe making a part 2 on things that make me irrationally angry, I will try to think of other things, but these were the two that I wanted to talk about when I was making this series, that I wanted to throw out there into the ethos for people to understand and kind of learn about me and where I'm coming from. Once again, thanks again for stopping by. And if you haven't checked out any of my previous videos, go ahead and check those out on my page. I do really appreciate you guys watching the videos each week and just kind of supporting this series as a whole in general. It's been really fun to make and try to figure out the editing software. Again, I'm going to try to fix the audio. Hopefully the fix this week works. Do you hate subscribing to people? I mean, sometimes I do. I really, honestly, I'm gonna be honest, that's maybe something that makes me irrationally angry for myself. Saying, hey, hit that subscribe button. Hate it. Just act like you hate the subscribe button and just give it a nice little punch when you see it. But yeah, guys, that's it for today. If you have any topics that you'd like me to talk about, please go ahead and put them down also in the comments down below, along with all your hate comments about how much you like the Tower of Babel and flying, and I will be sure to read them and take them into account for next week's video, as well as other videos in the future. Once again, thanks again for stopping by. My name's Mitch, I'm turning 30, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.